Welcome to the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasons, while drinking an old-fashioned. If you're not already a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button now. Platforms other than YouTube tend to block some of our content. Subscribe now to get up-to-date videos and shorts as they release. Now, enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasonry while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian.
And I'm Russ.
Russ, not too many times do we get to have brothers on our podcast.
Yes.
And the previous brother that was on the podcast has been throwing a little bit of shade on the other brother. So he's here to defend himself. But before we allow him to defend himself, let's give him the formal introduction, and we're going to come guns a-blazing.
Well, today we have our brother, Merle Talbott.
Thank you, gentlemen. Glad to be here.
All right. So what a better way to start off November and Veterans Day week than with a Marine,
Hoorah.
a Master Mason, and a Past Master of Albert Pike. So, have you ever watched any of the episodes?
I watch almost all the episodes.
I thought that might be the case, so you know we don't throw any zingers in there, but we wait for the ones that can handle it, so I don't know what I just said other than be ready, my friend. So, well, we're going to talk about that later.
Yes.
So, how we like to start the podcast is this. We like to know more about the man and not just the Mason. So, who's Merle Talbott?
Well, I'm Merle Talbott. I was born in Dallas, Texas. Go Cowboys. Lifelong Cowboys fan.
I didn't know that.
And my dad was a very humble man, but he moved around a lot. He built nuclear power plants, mainly on the East Coast, but we moved around a lot. Spent my formative years, I'll say, in Newberry, South Carolina. Went from 5th grade through high school there. So that's really the place I call home. We were middle class there in South Carolina, but I wasn't a very good student. I was lucky to get D's. C's was very good for me, but mainly D's when I was growing up. I remember when I was a kid in Pennsylvania, I got appointed by the principal to do flag duty, which was basically 2 kids went out every morning, and every afternoon you raised the flag and you lowered the flag.
Yeah.
It was a big honor for me, and they had a former Army veteran come out, and he showed us how to raise the flag, the proper respect, salute the flag. So I learned patriotism at a very young age. My grandfather was in the military in World War II. My dad was just pre-Korea. Several uncles, brothers, both my boys joined the military. So there's a long history of military in our family.
Nice. So there's that. What you live in Wichita now?
That's correct.
How long have you lived here? Talk about. I mean, you don't just have 2 sons. So go in a little bit deeper before we let Russ take the next part.
So I've been in Wichita. I right out of high school. We was in high school, and we had a junior-senior career day, and they brought in all the branches of the military to give their little spiel. The Army guy got up and talked. Of course, it was an assembly, several hundred students in the assembly, and the cat calls and the hollering and hooting. And the Army got up and spoke, the Air Force, and then the Marine Corps. The Navy guy got up, and then the Marine Corps guy got up, and he stood up there and he said, "Shut the hell up." And everybody kind of looked at him, and he looked over the teachers, and he said, "I'm embarrassed to have you guys sitting over there letting these kids run wild like this. I don't want any of you in my Marine Corps." Did a nice little left face and walked off the stage. And me and my buddy was sitting beside me, said, "We got to go talk to this guy. Anybody talk to teachers like that? I want to see this guy." So we went out and talked to this guy, and he gave us his spiel on the Marine Corps, and didn't pull the trigger at that time. After I graduated high school, I went on to work a nuclear power plant in North Carolina, helping build a nuclear power plant there as a laborer. Working in the rain, slogging around on my knees in water most of the time. Most of the nuclear power plant is underground, so whenever it rained, I was on a crew where I was in the water. So one day I was standing in the water, and I said, "You know what, it's got to be easier to be in the United States Marine Corps than to do this." Left, went back home, and joined the Marine Corps. did my time in the Marine Corps. But I've been in Wichita 30 plus years, 35 years.
Okay.
I worked at Boeing Aircraft Company for 18 and a half years. And then corporate greed set in, and Boeing sold our division to a company that became Spirit Aerosystems. And I've been there about 18 years now.
Okay.
So
Nice.
Do you have a family?
I do have a family.
Yeah, we tried that earlier. This is our second.
So this is our
we're
second.
pulling
Okay, we'll pull it out of me. All right. I do have a family. I am married to Marilyn. We've been married for a little over 13 years now. I have a daughter from a previous marriage, which is my only blood child. During that marriage, I received 3 kids of hers, and I raised them from very young children, and I claim them as my kids, 2 boys and a girl.
Well,
Nice.
Very nice.
Nice.
Very nice. And who is it that you might be related to that's a member of our lodge?
Well, I feel that we're all brothers, so I'm related to everybody at the lodge. But Bob, most worshipful, Bob Talbott is my younger brother. And I don't know if he would say the same, but I would say he's my best friend.
Well, we're going to dig into that.
Yeah.
And but does he make you? I know in public he always does. We'll just be out as the 4 of us, and Merle will say, "Hey, Bob," and it's most worshipful. I mean, we'll just be out having. I mean, he just does that. Does he still do that to you?
So he does not do that to me, and he's never done that to me. But out of respect for his position, I always call him most worshipful when we are in public.
Quite frankly, he's never done it to me. I've just seen him only do it to Brian.
Well, Bob mentioned something, and I took some notes here. Bobby mentioned something in his podcast when he was here about...
don't go there, because we may already have those questions.
Oh, okay.
We may tee those
you
up.
You have the one about him calling you an arrogant ass?
Oh, I do.
Oh, okay, good.
I do. That just came up. You know what? We're going to freeze a second. So that episode, you go back to that episode. That is part 1 of Most Worshipful Bob's episode, and we tried to ask Bob to compare our 2 management styles of the lodge. So he was all, "Oh, Russ was great," and then he says, "Bird, you were just an arrogant ass," and almost just like that. And you guys found it humorous, but
Did it almost hurt your feelings?
It hurt my feeling. I had almost shed a tear.
Yeah.
So my question to you is: you saw him manage the lodge, and you saw me manage a lodge. Would you agree with your brother?
So there's very few things that I do agree with Bob on. But to put the truth out there, I appointed Russ to the officer line. So I'm kind of favoritive towards Russ. But also, I was looking back at our dates because I could not remember you being master of the lodge. And that is simply because...
It was such an insignificant...
That is not true. I was on
lodge.
second shift at the time, and I was unable to attend lodge during the year. I think I made just the ending whenever you were going out and the new master was coming in, which was great, by the way. I really enjoyed it.
It really
that,
was.
So.
It was a good time.
Well, guys, thanks for watching the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, and we're going to close this up right now. Okay,
so
Russ,
now,
get this guy off.
I tell you what, I'm loving this.
Yeah,
this is good time.
Great.
We just got to do this.
Great.
All right. So now that we know a little bit about the man, we always want to know about your Masonic journey. So talk to us from the beginning to today. What is Brother Merle like as a Brother Mason?
Well, and listening to Bob's podcast, I didn't remember things exactly the way he did. Of course, we both seen 2 different sides. I was actually talking to a Mason at my job at Boeing at the time, Dennis Sands, and he was a member of North Star. And I was telling him that my dad was a Mason and was getting a little information from him. At the same time, Bobby was in conversation with Terry Kirstein, getting information. And at that time, me and Bob were having lots of breakfasts together on the weekends. We'd just get together and talk. We also rode a lot of bicycles back then, so we'd go for a bike ride and talk. But Bob was telling me, he's talking to this guy down at Albert Pike. And I said, well, I'm talking to this guy over at North Star. And, well, which one should we do? And Bob said, well, Albert Pike is the world's largest lodge. Hands down. Hey, okay, we got to go there, right? So we went down and did our investigation. And then ended up joining Albert Pike in 92, I believe it was, 1992.
Okay. So if you went from there and you progressed up the line, keep going. So who put you on the line at Pike?
So I was a Jimmy Craig trained Mason,
Many of us
which
are.
a lot of the older fellows are. Jimmy had a unique way of teaching study club, and a lot of people just really flourished in it, and me and Bob was one of them. Me and Bob were both looking, I think, for a way to do community service, and we found it in the lodge. They were doing a lot of work back then with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and some the Masonic Home. There were some other organizations we did, and it was just, we wanted to give back a little, and that was really put us there. So just by showing up at study club, learning the work, and doing degree work, we became more proficient. And at that time, the senior officers, that's what they were looking for in appointing new officers. They wanted people that were willing to come down and do the work. They wanted people that were willing to give of their time for the community, which fit me and Bob both.
Yeah.
We were both put in the line at the same time by Scott Kaler. He was the senior warden fixing to be master of the lodge. And he come and asked both of us, would we be willing to join the line? I want to say I started as senior steward, and Bob started as junior deacon.
Okay.
In the lodge. So Bob was 1 year ahead of me. So enjoyed it, went through the work, did all the work all the time, progressed through the line.
Got your B card.
Got my B card. Now, I did not get my B card until Bobby was master, 1 year before, when I was senior warden, 1 year before I was to be master. At that time, we couldn't find any records that showed any master without a B card. And I was not going to be the first one to be master without a B card.
Peer pressure's a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
Pressure is a real thing. So I got my B card and served Bobby the best I could as his senior warden. Bob didn't mention a lot of things, and we can dispense with the most worshipful here, right? I mean, we got to say most worshipful every time we say Bob's name, because I got a bunch of times with Bob's name. I tried to serve Bob the best I could. I wanted Bob to have a great year. Bob didn't mention a lot of things because he's too humble, but in Bob's year, actually it was Terry Kirstein's year, Bob's senior warden. Bob came up with the Stars and Stripes 5K run.
Okay.
He told Terry about it. Terry thought it was a good idea, and Bob said, well, can we try it your year before my year gets started? Terry was all for that. Bob also came up with the Albert Pike Teacher of the Year. Gave it to Terry. Terry thought it was a great idea, and we ran with it. So it started there. But Bob didn't mention any of that when he was here, I'm assuming, just because he's...
But he did throw shade on you.
He did throw a little, but...
He made a comment of like, we said, what is one of your greatest accomplishments? And he said, well, we kept Merle in office.
Well, I got that right there. That we let Merle stay in office all year long. So
I told you he was bashing, and we're bringing it out. We're not letting him do that to us.
In Marine Corps boot camp, they break you down physically and mentally, and then they build you back the way they want the Marine to be.
Oh, here we go. This is going to be good.
It was arrogant. I was the best. There was none better than me.
Yeah.
And I carried that through a large time of my life where I was just the best, and I had that, unfortunately, that arrogantness.
Confidence, we shall say, as soldiers. Soldiers will say that.
As I was going through the line. So I did try to help Bob the best I could. Me and Bobby have had a relationship where we will throw a little zinger at each other occasionally, and it's never meant with any harm. And if there is any problem, we'll sit down and have one of these, and we'll talk about it, and it's forgotten the next day.
Yeah.
Actually, the other night I had dinner with Bob, and I asked him a question about ritual. And he instantly got defensive because he knew that I had an agenda that I already had.
You always do.
That I had. I was going to zing him and basically go, why are we doing this? Is that... No, I actually had a question, and he just kept sort of waiting for me to just...
pop
him. And it was like, no, I actually want to know, why do we do this certain thing?
I love it.
And I go, Well, that makes sense.
But
And
in
then it
his
went on.
defense,
Yeah, because I do it a lot.
we do it, and he's always like, I'm afraid to answer this question because he's trapping me here to take me here. So in his defense.
Or he puts up the hand. I don't have the energy for you today.
I've seen
Bobby
that
traveled
too.
a lot at the time that he was going through the line, and a lot of times in hotel rooms. So in the evenings, instead of going down sitting at the bar all night, he would sit in his room and do ritualistic work. He would study and get proficient in the work.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, did not. I could do degree work. I could do my parts. I could open and close the lodge.
Sure.
And I was comfortable with that.
But it was good.
That's
And you
all
were
I-
master
Yeah,
what year?
you were very proficient.
I was master in 2000.
In 2000.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were very proficient, and your parts were down.
I knew my parts. I liked doing my parts, and I did a lot of them. We did a lot of degree work going up. Of course, at the time we were probably doing study. We were doing study club every Monday night, and then we would do degree work every other Wednesday, and then lodge was every other Wednesday. So we were doing degree work.
It was, up and even when I was master, it was tough to be a Pike officer. You were there sometimes 3, 4, 5 nights a week.
Yes.
Getting stuff done. But, we knew what we signed up for.
Right.
So.
Yeah. There was something that I remember, and it just popped in my brain. And so remember when you had the Palm Pilot?
I do remember the Palm Pilot.
We're not going to talk about what was on your Palm Pilot. It was just a funny picture, but you would just, and my wife at the time, he walked up and showed that to her.
We're not going to talk about, know what?
the monkey.
That's the monkey.
Was it the monkey?
It was the monkey.
Okay, we're going to do a short on that and tell about that later because I think that is hilarious. That's
I
gonna be
think
worth
that's
a
when
short.
she first started hating me.
Pretty much. Yes.
No more teasing. We're going to bring that out. That's going to be, actually, for those that have watched this, that's going to be the short of the lead-in before that, as we do the promo piece for it. So just, if you haven't seen it, go back and look at it. So we kind of got through your Blue Lodge, and you joined Scottish Rite, and you joined the Shrine. Never got really active.
I joined York Rite. I did not join the Scottish Rite.
York Rite and Shrine, but never got super active.
That's correct.
Right. So, a lot of us do that. So let's go back. You're in this gymnasium, and I know the Marine, what he did, but talk to us why you chose that branch over the other better branch of service.
So there was no better branch of service, despite whatever you may think or whatever branch that you may have served in the Army under. I tell you what, it's a...
We love this. Anybody that are soldiers or in the military, we all know that there's the banter, back and forth. And everyone, we're all prideful.
We're very prideful.
Yeah. So...
bearing. Keep your bearing.
Keep your bearing.
Right?
No, stay the course.
I joined the Marine Corps for several reasons. One, I had an uncle, my mom's side of the family, Uncle Howard, who was a career Marine, and he was a big, tall, good-looking man in his dress blues and his chest full of ribbons. He was in Vietnam and had ribbons to here.
Right.
And my stepmother's son, Dennis, was a Marine during Vietnam. Now, he was stationed in England, so it was Vietnam period, but he was stationed in England. And when I started looking at the military, come home and said I was looking at the Marine Corps, and my stepmother flat told me that she did not think I was tough enough to be a Marine.
Okay.
And that lit
Challenge
the
accepted.
fire under my
Basically,
butt.
yeah.
I went to my
That'll
bedroom
do
and
it.
said, I will be a Marine, and I will show her.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jonah Fay. I know you're in heaven right now, and you're part of the reason I joined the Marine Corps.
I love it. Well, I have a family full of Army, and that was the biggest reason that I stayed with the branch, other than I didn't like the taste of crayons. So we'll keep going forward.
Wow. So, Merle.
Wait a minute, I gotta watch that.
So all three of us served on the Grand Line in some aspect as far as being an appointed position the year your brother was Grand Master.
Yes.
So today, if Grand Lodge officer were to come to you and say, hey, we'd like for you to do this, or would you be willing to participate in Grand Lodge today?
If I am asked by the Grand Master, I will serve.
Okay.
I think that's a responsibility we have as Masons. I would be careful about what I would want to do. The position I had when Bob was in was a very good fit for me. It was a good position. It didn't require me going to a lot of meetings and that kind of stuff. I was the grand chaplain. And that just worked real well for me. I did the duties I was supposed to. I visited hospitals and that kind of stuff, and I really liked that. To be a district deputy or something like that, where you have to attend all these meetings and give these lectures at the lodges all the time, that's not really something that I would be interested in.
Fair. Yeah. Fair. All right. So settle this now. If we were to poll all of your blood brothers, okay, we're going to poll them, who would be voted the favorite brother and why?
I would have to say that Bobby would be voted the favorite brother.
Would you give him your vote?
So I would, only because when Bobby was a small child, Bobby had asthma real bad, and he was a poor, sickly little boy. And anytime you would, little kids shoving each other, my older brother would come just beat the holy crap out of me. So Bobby was poor and little and sickly, so we just had to be extra nice to Bobby. So I would say Bobby would be the favorite.
Well, not a lot has changed, so... What? Listen, we said we're going to come back. We're going to defend Merle's honor.
So, you've been a Mason for 30 plus years.
Yes.
You've seen ups and downs. What have you seen change? And has Masonry changed for the better, for the worse? What's your feel of where Masonry is headed today?
What's the state of Masonry in your opinion?
I think the state of Masonry is in good shape. We have some good leaders in the Grand Lodge. We have some good leaders in our lodge. Some up-and-coming leaders are real good. And we've gone a direction that was different from the time when me and Bob was in. The guys coming up now, I think, they're much smarter than I was. I don't know if they're smarter than Bob. Bob was always known as the smart brother, and I was always known as the good-looking brother. So, but I think Masonry's going in a good direction. I like the leadership of the Grand Lodge right now, and I like the way the Council of Administration is working on the Grand Lodge. I didn't know a lot about the Grand Lodge until Bob became active in it, and then I found out a lot more just talking with Bob how it works and why it works, and that kind of stuff.
That's fair. So you raised over 75 Masons the year you were master.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you raise more or less than your brother Bob?
So,
what if I know that number?
So I'm sure you do know that number, and I happen to know that my number was higher than Bob's. We had the Grand Lodge had a program and I'm assuming they still do now, Masters and Wardens class. And in that class, they told us to set a goal on how many Masons you want to raise.
It's called Leadership Academy now.
Okay.
Or the Guild
now.
And it was like, well, how do you know how many Masons you're going to raise? It depends on how many petitions you get in. But I set a goal that I wanted to raise 75 Masons. Actually, I set the number quite low, and our secretary at the time says, well, we achieve that number every year. If you're going to set a number that we don't always achieve.
Okay.
So I set the number at 75, and I want to say I was somewhere near 79, but don't quote me on that number.
So, very good. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, and you raised more than your brother.
Yes, I did.
So, always good. So, you know the question. You've heard this question before, so this is going to be an interesting one for you.
All right, so we have asked this question many times, whether or not you would rather to have an entire line of proficient Masons.
Proficiency card-holding Masons.
Card-holding Masons. Or an entire line of inspirational Masons.
No mixture.
Inspirational, hands down.
Why?
I think that the guys that come to Lodge to do degree work and attend Lodge week in and week out, they're going to know their parts. They're going to know what they have to say. I think if you got inspirational guys, you're going to get new ideas. You're going to get great leaders out of that group.
And we agree we need both. So we always like the would you rather. I've got some great would you rathers that I could never tell you on camera, but we love the would you rathers because it puts you in a corner. So, all right, we've got a new question for you since we know you're a watcher. So, if you were committed of a crime that warranted the death penalty, what would your last meal be?
Wow.
See, we have to. our followers. We have to throw in some new stuff.
So, there's a lot to that. Am I going to be shot? Am I going to be hung?
Well, they don't do that anymore, so it's probably going to be by the chair or injection.
Okay, well, I'm going to have fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and gravy with some fried okra.
That sounds really good.
That sounds really good.
Happens to be what I'm having for dinner tonight. So.
Oh, man.
I hope that I'm not going to the death penalty tonight.
Yeah. That's, oh, gosh, wouldn't it be terrible?
So, living or dead? This question, who would you like to sit down with for dinner? They have to you've never had a meal with them. Who would you like to sit down with? Living or dead? Just somebody to have a conversation with.
John Wayne.
Oh,
I'm a big John Wayne fan. I have quite a few of his DVDs. Used to have them on tape. Now I have them on DVDs. But John Wayne, I think I'd like to sit down and talk to him about how he made the movies. I heard that he drank when he was drinking alcohol in the movie. It was real alcohol.
Nice. Oh, I didn't know that. So you've already answered this question, because Bob, on an episode Bob was talking about, he referred to one of you as a good-looking one and one's a smart one. So we've just answered that. So which brings us to this, the most important question of the podcast. Since we're in November and it's Thanksgiving season, one must go, so we're bringing back from the original episodes. And I just want to remind you folks that Merle is ending season 1 with us. Final episode for lots of reasons, but we wanted Merle. So, one must go. You've got a delicious turkey, whether it's fried or in the oven, however you like it. Pumpkin pie, stuffing. I don't know, what else do they call it other than stuffing? Dressing, and ham. One has to go forever. Which one is it and why? And ours are probably going to be the same as they were before. So what has to go forever? You can never have it again, never see it, and nobody in the world can have it.
Pork. The ham's got to go. You can't get rid of the bird. You got to have the bird. Pork's got to go.
I don't think we've had that answer yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What was yours?
Turkey.
I thought so. Mine is pumpkin pie because I could care less about sweets. So that's me.
And turkey is fine. I get tired of making it, and it's just I would rather have something completely different. I would rather have steak, or
a lot of people are doing prime rib now.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So
I would love it.
Thanks for watching Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, Merle.
Thank you, Brother Merle.
Thanks for defending the Talbott family. What did you think of this episode? To continue to promote Freemasonry, hit that like button now. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and give us a comment. The Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where real Masons talk Freemasonry. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a comment.